What's that sound? It's for amusement only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast.
I finished packing up for the York Pinball Show, which is happening October the 12th and 13th of 2018. And I'm headed up there, and I'm bringing with me the Multi-Bingo and United's Caravan. Both will be available in the free play section. And if I'm able to pack them safely, I'll bring 2 ancillary playfields for the Multi-Bingo. On top of the Multi-Bingo, which has 142 different bingo pinball machines that were all manufactured in the United States between 1951 and 1981, there is going to be an unboxing, and not just any unboxing. In Bingo Row, Dennis Stodel is bringing his new in-the-box Silver Sails, and it will be unboxed Friday at 10:30 a.m. Please make sure, if you're able, to come and see the unboxing. I have several volunteers which are going to film from different angles, and I will compile the videos and edit them together to provide a seamless YouTube video, and I'll upload that once all the editing's complete. So, this year's York Show is a don't-miss event. I know several titles which are going to be there. A Bally Bikini, a United Serenade, which is the only one known to exist, Bally Nightclub, and a Bally Miss Universe. There will likely be other games there as well. The titles tend to be a little bit in flux as we get this close to the show, so we'll see what shows up there. Those are the ones that I know for sure are coming, and I hope to see you all there as well. If you see me, come up, say hi, and attempt to get 4 or 5 in a row on any of the machines in Bingo Row for your chance to win a signed limited edition print of the Bingo Row artwork. Very excited with how this came out, and big thanks to Ryan Clater, the artist that I commissioned to do the design and also the print itself. He does phenomenal work if you're not familiar. And if you're not familiar, what are you doing? Ryan is great. His artwork is fantastic, and he is extremely easy to work with. So thank you again, Ryan, and I look forward to seeing you at the show as well. So, with show talk out of the way, let's move on to kind of our big topic for this episode. I received my copy of Pinball Magazine number 5, which features a career retrospective on Wayne Nyans, along with very thorough interviews and a wonderful foreword and retrospective article by Gordon Hassey. Gordon and Wayne have both been on the show in prior episodes and are wonderful people to talk to and wonderful people to know. Gordon is a longtime collector and player and admirer of pinball machines, and Gottlieb in particular. And Wayne Nyans, of course, is the designer of many of Gottlieb's pinball machines for decades. He worked designing games and building games, testing games, overseeing factory operations as chief engineer. He really had a long and storied career at Gottlieb, and before that at a smaller manufacturer called Western Equipment and Supply. In my interview with Wayne, I talked about some of his early days and how he kind of got his start in coin-op and his time during the Depression. And Gordon goes over some of those stories in slightly greater detail, and definitely well worth a read. Gordon also includes photos and information about Westerns, such as photos from Jimmy Johnson's Playland Park by Ed Gaida, and various flyers and photos of games are sprinkled throughout the narrative. His article is fantastic and a great introduction and recognition of Wayne Nyans and his contributions to pinball, as well as to Gottlieb. There's also information about the Gottlieb family. There's lots of information about various folks that worked at the factory, of which I was not aware. It is well worth a read and runs about 40 pages of Pinball Magazine number 5. Another interesting thing is that there are photos of the whitewoods of various games that Wayne Nyans designed, and those make me smile from ear to ear. I don't know if you can hear it, but they're just phenomenal pieces of time, which I would have thought would be lost to history, but they include the sample artwork that Wayne either drew or had drawn up for the games, which of course would be used or ignored by Roy Parker as the whims took him. So, in one particularly memorable instance, there's Arabian Nights. The whitewood actually has the name Daisy May. And it's interesting to me how many of these whitewoods with different names went on to be produced as a completely different title later on, usually also designed by Wayne Nyans. So the company itself, David Gottlieb in particular, had the final say on what the title of the games were going to be, and Wayne's idea didn't always make it. However, he did have a lot of latitude on how the game played and was percentaged and so forth, and that is spoken to in the article as well. There's also a very wide-ranging interview that begins right after Gordon's introductory article, and it talks about everything from his design of the free play unit and his initial drawings for Western, and his time growing up as a boy, all the way through his days as chief engineer, and all the games that came in between. And I really have to give Jonathan Houston a lot of credit for this magazine, because he went through game by game and tried to get some little nugget of information from Wayne. And Wayne obliged most of the time. He, in some cases, he's reviewing what is on the playfield and just saying things like, that's an interesting design, or, I wonder how I came up with that, or things like that. But other times, he has quite a bit of information to share about how he came up with the idea for that particular game, or how the targets were rearranged from one layout to another in order to create this entirely new game with an entirely new set of shots or features. It's a fascinating read. Fascinating. Wayne also talks about the rise of the multiplayer game and its rise in popularity, especially in certain territories. I find that to be a very intriguing bit of information. For example, the game Texan was made primarily at the requests of operators and distributors in the Texas market. And information about Attaballs, how the game's played and so forth. Information about backlash animations and mechanical units. Many were costed out of games from the sounds of things, which makes perfect sense. That's a very expensive thing that doesn't add to the actual playability of the game. Of course, they are beautiful to look at and great fun while you're playing. But when you have to make the choice between action on the playfield and action on the backlash, the choice was apparently usually very clear. There's some information about the gambling games and information about new daily races and various other games that Gottlieb built. There's even a promotional photo of Gottlieb, David Gottlieb, and Wayne Nyans standing beside two new daily races, which I find very cool. There's information about games like Sweet Adeline, which definitely have a bingo influence, as well as the ability to peg the credit reel, which that's got to be some feeling. I've never played that game, but that is high up my wish list. All kinds of information, everything that you can think you could possibly ask and more is really encompassed in not only this interview, but Gordon's initial article, as well as other retrospectives on Wayne Nyans' career, which follow the interview. So there is quite a bit of information about Wayne Nyans and his career and work within this magazine. It's really a phenomenal piece, and I would encourage anybody who has any interest whatsoever in EMs, and especially those of you who don't have any interest in EMs, to run out and pick this up, because it will give you an appreciation for EMs, as well as how the games are played. You know, what makes them fascinating, what makes this one different from another one. Boy, these all seem like slow clunkers. You know, that is not something that you'll say after having read a couple hundred pages about how these games are so different from each other. And even something as simple as being able to look at the playfield layouts for each of the games, it sounds cheesy or trite, that would be helpful. But I would say, especially if you're just starting out, that is one of the more fascinating things, to look at how varied the designs are by a single designer. And you'll see similarities. There will be pieces which are used kind of from game to game, and then they'll be scrapped and something new will take its place. This kind of iterative design is also fascinating to me. So, aside from all this information, there's information about the roto targets, which are one of my personal favorites, and apparently Wayne's as well, and the double award feature, which is only used on a small number of games, but is one of my favorite gimmicks, I guess, of the 1950s, being able to put in a second coin. And in that vein, there's information about a game that maybe had a multi-coin influence. All that and more is in here, and so much more. It's really hard to describe in words just how much information is in here. But it's done, I suppose, within the magazine. So I would encourage, again, everybody to pick this up, give it a look, and let me know what you think. I am truly impressed. Beyond the information on Wayne, there's also an interview with Steve Young, who has also been on the show. Steve Young is the owner of the Pinball Resource up in New York, and supplies many pinball parts to all of us. And it is always interesting to hear his take on the hobby, the business, everything about the industry. Steve has a lot of knowledge, is another person that I truly enjoy talking to. So for all these reasons and more, definitely pick this up. I was lucky enough to meet some of the people who speak about Wayne Nyans in this issue at Wayne's 100th birthday party. And it's great to be able to read their words about Wayne, as I got to hear their words about Wayne in person. These are nice folks, and I've enjoyed spending time with them, what little time I was able to spend with them. Beyond that, this issue of Pinball Magazine does have some modern pinball information, and it includes an interview with Scott Denisi and various other personalities in modern pinball development. But the meat of the issue, the really exciting part for me, is that this wide-ranging interview has been published on Wayne's 100th year on planet Earth. It's really pretty special. So, again, I would encourage everybody to run out, pick this up, and give it a read. If you're headed up to York, hopefully there will be a copy or two for sale. I know the Pinball Resource has copies, and you can order them from Steve. You can also order at pinballmagazine.com, and it is shipped from Europe, so it takes a little while to ship and also to arrive over here, but it is worth the wait. I don't think I mentioned, but it's 360 pages, so the word magazine is a bit of a stretch. It is quite weighty, quite meaty, but worth the read, worth every page. So, again, check that out, and let me know what you think. If you have anything to add about Wayne Nyans, feel free to pass that on. I've, as I say, enjoyed speaking with the man, spending time with the man, and I am truly appreciative for the time that I was able to do those things. Today's game is 1952's United Steeplechase. You may be familiar with the horse race animations in various games that are made by Williams. This is the only one that I know of that was made by United. And United typically had different mechanisms, actual mechanical units, than their counterparts at Williams or Bally. So when I saw this game, it really stuck out for me for a couple reasons. One, it's a United game with the horse race animation, which I think is pretty unique. And two, as a United, there's probably some additional player appeal to this game than your typical flipper game where the horse is selected either at random or by hitting the appropriately numbered bumper, and off you go. Well, in this case, the playfield layout is comprised of many different bumpers, and they're cascading downwards in a flipperless layout. It's reminiscent of a flipperless game. The game does not have flippers, in fact, but it does have several kick-out holes and two double-stacked rebound rubbers down near the bottom, which can be used to bounce the ball with great force back up towards the center kick-out hole or either of the side kick-out pockets. The different bumpers, unfortunately, I'm not certain of their use. Now, I can guess that they advance the horses on the back glass, but I don't know scoring, for example, how many points are awarded per bumper, for example, or if points are even a thing on this game. On the back glass, which is shown on IPDB, there are not backlit scoring sections that are visible just by looking at the glass. However, if you look at the light box, you can see that there are many different lamps which are placed throughout the back box in more than just the areas which are outlined in the artwork. So you have a selected horse or more than one selected horse. I'll get to that in a second. And then you have a racetrack showing who has finished of the 6 horses. And you have some artwork of horses doing a steeplechase, which is pretty detailed and very cool looking. And then this cutout window so that you can see the horse mechanism of the 6 horses. And we'll talk about that mechanism here in a second too. So the reason I suspect that there are points of some kind, or at least replay views, is, again, looking at the whiteboard behind the back glass, you can see that there are different lit sections and numbers going up and down the left and right hand side. Now, those may just count replays, so I'm not certain if there are any points involved or not. However, it stands to reason that there would be at least some points awarded because of things like the kickout holes. Looking at the playfield and what I can see, the center kickout pocket appears to award 20 positions, which seems like an awful lot. And each of the side kickout pockets award 5 positions. So your horses advance that many times. The horse that advances is most likely selected by a bumper, but your selection is not made by bumper. Your selection is made by coin. This is a multi-coin game, and you can put in up to 6 coins. Now, as a player, why would you want to do that? The answer is because of the number of replays that you can get, and you can get a tremendous number of replays on this game for having the correct finisher, and also how many coins you put in will determine how many replays you win. So as the promotional letter says, by playing all 6 horses, which require 6 coins, the player is assured of a 2 replay winner with the finishing horse and the possibility of winning 8, 12, 20, or the top award of 100 replays. A finishing horse each game plus the 100 replay top award act as a terrific incentive for 6 coin play. That sounds crazy. 100 replays? That would be something to see on a game like this. So let's talk about the mechanism a little bit, and then we'll talk about the artwork just a very little bit, because there's not much of it that I can see except for the cabinet. But the mechanism itself actually wends its way through the back box. Looking at the back box photo on IPDB, you have several United steppers, all of sturdy, all metal construction, very large gearing in the center. And up above them, you have the tracks for the horses to ride on. The horses are pulled along by pulley, fairly simple thing, but the pulleys actually wend their way behind the steppers and between various other pieces of the back box and the edges of the mechanism itself. And I find this extremely fascinating. I would love to see this in operation. It looks really cool and quite different. So Williams, or is it Valley? Williams had a clutch-driven affair for their horse race mechanism, and Valley had something which strikes me as similar at the moment, clutch-driven. But this appears to be pulley-driven and therefore simpler. Of course, your problem here is shown in the back box photo, in that if the thread or chain or whatever you want to call it that is actually doing the pulling gets stretched or off track, then the whole thing stops working. And it looks like it might be a bit of a bear to rewind. But that said, having to thread up film projectors, it doesn't look that scary. So I'd be curious to see this in operation, as I say. All right, looking at the artwork, you have some fairly interesting and dynamic, I guess you'd say, artwork for the cabinet. This must have been a stencil that was used on something else. I'm not able to find what it is at the moment. But boy, it's odd. So steeplechase, you'd assume horse race, right? You'd think jockeys riding on horses around some kind of track would be the logical cabinet artwork. Well, you'd be wrong. In steeplechase's case, you have a football player, you have 2 speedboats and 3 sailboats, you have a race car, you have a train, you have what appears to be a buoy for a boat race that the boats are racing towards. Then you have a couple airplanes, just for good measure, in there. Looking at the front of the machine, you have what appears to be a stadium, or possibly the track. The door is missing on the photo on IPDB, but looking on the flyer, yes, that appears to be the track. Although you could make the argument it's a stadium, what with the football player and all. And you have a couple planes flying overhead. This is some confusing cabinet artwork, and I'd love to know that story, and I feel like there is one. Was that artwork actually intended for a different game? Was it used on a different game? And these are leftover cabs. The cab itself is a very odd shape. It has a floor-length back, and then the front is a typical pinball machine front. So you've got 2 kind of spindly wood legs in the front. You've got the wooden surrounds on the playfield glass. And then you've got this huge back box. So again, I would love to know the decision behind that, but this game looks really cool, and I would love to play it. It's a bit of a novelty, so I could see it getting a bit old in a collection, unless you have people over to play fairly frequently. Because I could see this being a great competitive game. If you're guaranteed an award, if you play all 6 coins, having it on free play would make it of limited excitement in a home collection. But again, the multiplayer aspect makes it very interesting. Looking at the front of the game, it's got the typical coin acceptance mechanism of time, drop shoot, and the plunger that lifts up the ball is the spoon type. So you push down on this thing, which is shaped like a spoon with your thumb, and the ball jumps up into the shooter lane. Works exactly the same as the secondary plunger, but it's a little less confusing, I guess, than that secondary plunger for a new player. Well, that's all for tonight. Thank you very much for joining me. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com. You can listen to me on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Pocket Casts via RSS, on Facebook, on Twitter at Bingo Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram, also at Bingo Podcast, or you can reach me on my website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thank you very much for listening. Please come out to the York Show, say hello to me, play the multi-bingo, win a prize, and I'll talk to you next time.